So I was thinking about peace, what peace is, and also what evil is. Um, of course, there's the Israel and Hamas war, and wherever we look, it seems that there's evil all over the place. And when I drive my son Ajo to school every morning, and he's in high school. And then after I turn on NPR to listen to the news, and it's corruption in the government, in our political system. It's injustice or inequality in gender issues, economics, social values, and everything. It's just everything is like it's turned upside down. And I can feel myself when I'm driving. Listen, I can feel my body tense up, and I come to a stoplight. There's one area when I'm driving that they had a lot of construction, so one of the lanes is blocked, so it's like a long line, and then there's two lines trying to get into this one line. So I'm listening to the corruption of politics and everything, or our voting system, everything just out the window, and I'm trying to get into this line, and of course there's a part of myself that is you could say is corrupt, is ignorant, trying to get into that line myself, so I can get back here quicker to get to the work that I want to do. And I think that's probably a feeling that's very common in this world at this time. So everywhere that we look, it conditions ourselves to be like that, and then we think that's a normal way of being, but it's quite off. So we get dragged by these things. We get dragged that way, and we get dragged this way, and we lose we lose our judgment of actually what is right and wrong and how to live as like a real person, and so it's quite sad. So we lose that, right? We lose that stability of being a true person, a peer, and then we go out in the world, and then we make these groups like the government, social system, and that's why it's upside down, is because we're not doing the work as individual beings, and seeing that, realizing our greed, anger, and ignorance, that we have been conditioned by listening to NPR or driving in a certain way. But there are ways in which there's small ways. Oh, this week, so I was at a stoplight. I pulled up at a stoplight, and there's that line ahead of me. And so, I put my car on hold. It has a brake hold, so I could hit the pedal faster than the other guy. So the light's red, and then it turns green, and then I do nothing. I sit there and let the other cars pass me. So what is it to actually to disarm, you would say, to disarm this, yeah. Oh, disarmament, right? In the 60s, or in the 60s or 70s, they call it disarmament, like nuclear. Disarmament is disarming ourselves by actually doing nothing. So it's actually, it's, yeah, it's opening ourselves up into this, you would say, this pure naked awareness in which we're vulnerable, and this great anger and ignorance isn't solidified in this self or this I. And there's this statement: if all spheres were to be engulfed and all dharma swallowed by evil, be swallowed up, the refraining or not doing anything remains the liberating factor, is actually not doing anything. But this not doing anything is not, it's not, uh, uh, oh, and poker say, don't you show your ace. If you have, you always have your purity within yourself. So it's not doing nothing, is actually you are doing everything, and you're getting out of the way in which this has, the way has been conditioned, how you see things, how we see things, hear things, smell things, touch things, have been then conditioned by how we look outside, and then get dragged this way and that way. So the best, I mean, I sound like a car salesman, but the best thing we can do is actually is actually sit here, you know. And it's hard work to sit and actually face actually all the thoughts that you have, and all the delusions that you have, all the fantasies and everything, and then just look down and you're really not doing, you're just sitting there. Right? I'm not surfing, I'm not eating, I'm not in an argument, I'm not pissed off, I'm not a child, I'm not going into the future, I'm just right here. So that's this yeah, short-circuiting our habitual patterns of this greed, anger, and ignorance that have been so hardwired that it's hard for us to then know what is right and wrong. So actually, to sit and to realize our greed, anger, and ignorance, then we cannot help but then go out into the world and create an enlightened society in which, when greed comes up, we can face it. When you're at the bank, greed comes up, you can face it. You know, ignorance comes up, anger comes up, frustration comes up. All situations or all your life, when it comes up, then you can actually meet it very purely, but not just automatically conditioned with this greed, anger, and ignorance. And it will come up, but at the same time, when we realize it, then the greed, anger, and ignorance they turn into actually the wisdom of actually being a true person, and then you make your decision. Sometimes the decision may be right, sometimes it may be wrong, but it's not about right and wrong. It's living your life directly. It's a direct experience. So then whatever comes up again, then you make a decision again. So I want to read this email that Ite Sharf, he's a member, and he's lives in Israel. and he actually sits with us. It's quite crazy. He sits with us every day online, and he's been doing it since the pandemic. And the other day, he even sent this this little it's a picture. So he built this little hut that he sits in his backyard. It's a little room. And of course, when the war started, I emailed him and asked him if he was okay. And so he emailed back, and he says, during Nyoze, so he sits actually every day with us, and that's actually quite inspiring for what's happening around him. He remains to actually sit. During Nyoze, hope you are well. I live in Ramat Hasharon and work in Tel Aviv. We have a minute and a half to enter the shelters from the moment the alarm sounds following the Hamas rocket fire. We try not to go outside these days except for essential things, or if there is shelter nearby. We're in great uncertainty since we do not know how long the war will last and if other countries, such as Lebanon or Iran, will join Hamas. People here in Israel who live closer to the border with Gaza and whose homes the terrorists came to have gone through an unimaginable nightmare. Hamas murdered children in front of their parents, kidnapped babies, children, women, and elderly people into captivity. It's so sad. We hope for good days. Thank you very much for your interest and for practicing with me. Yours in the Dharma Ite. So there's a story about Shakyamuni Buddha a long time ago. In India, there was the Shakya clan, the clan that the Buddha came from. And the Shakya clan was a good bloodline, and it's the country of Kapilavastu. And the neighboring country of Kapilavastu was Magadha, and there was the Shea clan, and the Shea clan, they were a very a strong warrior class, but they came from a very kind of simple origin. So in those days, the prince and the princesses, they tried to get together to actually make good blood, you would say. So the king of Magadha, or the Shea clan, Hashinoku, he had this idea then to, of course, marry a princess from the Shakya clan. So the Hashinoku then went over to Kapilavastu and asked King Suddhodana that this is my idea, and will you actually bring over a princess to marry? And so Hashinoku went back to Magadha, and King Suddhodana didn't know what to say, but he actually didn't have any choice, because he knew that the Shea clan, who is a warrior class, would wipe out actually the Shakya clan if he didn't accept. So he had the idea of he sent one of his members, offsprings of his family, and then a maidservant, then to go to Magadha to do the She clan and the king. So the maidservant was sent, and then the offspring of the member was sent. And of course, the king Hashinoku of the She, then he married the maidservant, which he thought was actually a princess. And then after years, then they had a baby, and his name was Prince Rory. And so Prince Rory every once in a while would go to Kapilavastu and then play with the kids in Kapilavastu at the Shakya clan kids. So one day, an unfortunate thing happened is that he was playing in the meditation hall quite like this, and there was a huge platform that was in front of the Buddha, and Prince Rory got on the platform. So he was playing on this platform with the other kids, and the members of the Shakya clan, they came in and they yelled at him and they said, "Get off! You know, no one could go on the altar. You know, you got to get off." And they told him to get out of here and leave. And Prince Rory, he as a child, he thought it was strange because a prince is really high, and he was kind of his feelings were hurt, and he at that time he also requested that he visit his mother's birthright place, his mother where he was born in Kapilavastu. And at the time he had an assistant, and his assistant was uh, kind of gave away the secret, and said to him at that time, he said, "Your mother was nothing more than a maidservant." And boy, the little boy, the little Prince Rory, he was just like, he was mad. You know, at that time, to be in the aristocracy and bloodline was everything. Everything was that. It was lineage, bloodline, and everything. So he was furious, and he made a vow to himself actually to destroy and to wipe out every single person of the Shakya clan when he grows up. So that was his mission, and that was his thinking every day. He would train, he would learn martial arts. He trained day and night, and his greed of getting land, his anger, it boiled. His anger was at a rage. And his ignorance, he was just totally ignorant and totally off. So he trained his military and everything. And the day came when the Nada or the She were ready, and they were ready to wipe out the Shakya clan. So Prince Rory said, "We're gonna go right now and destroy this clan, or destroy our neighboring country." So they got on their horses, and there was thousands and thousands of soldiers and people to fight. There was a long road that goes into Kapilavastu, and in the Shakya clan, they could see they could see them coming like miles and miles away. And so at that time, um, the Shakya clan, they were also a warrior class, but all the warriors, they turned into they turned to students of the Buddha. So their military was very small, and so they knew that there was no way that they could fight off the Shay clan that's coming. And so they all the military people, they went to the Buddha and asked, and they asked the Buddha, what should we do? We need to fight. We need to fight our best fight because we're going to be wiped out. And the Buddha was also, he was trained um, as a fighter, but he said, we're not gonna do anything. And he actually didn't say a word to uh, the Shaki clan, but he found this tree uh, uh, that was pretty close to this main road that went into Kapilavastu. He found this tree that was dead. It was dead and it was withered and it didn't have any leaves on it, and it was a dying tree. So the 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 Shay military were advancing, and the Buddha sat zazen under this dead tree, and he just sat zazen just like what we did right now. He sat there, and he could hear the rumble of just the greed, anger, and ignorance come towards Kapilavastu. And he sat there, and Prince Rory, on his horse, he could see the Buddha sitting under this dead tree, and he told his people to stop, and he looked at the Buddha, and how could these thousands of people pass this person just sitting there? So he got off his horse, and saw the Buddha, and then asked the Buddha, why are you sitting there? Why are you sitting there? And the Buddha replied, I am sitting because under the shade of this cool tree, which is close to my heart and close to my homeland. And so the king, or King Rory at the time, or Prince Rory, then he got his troops then to turn back, so that they all went back to Magadha, and a couple weeks passed, and um, uh, King Roy's assistant uh, then kept on prodding King Rory to, you must you must do what you have planned all these years. What are you going to do if you're not going to do that? What was your plan? So, okay, they got the military again, and then they went down this road, and then they stopped, and they saw the Buddha sitting there. And King Rory, he just couldn't do it, so he went back. The third time, the Shay clan went down the road. King Rory looked at the Buddha, and he really looked at the Buddha, but it was too late, and the military, they all went then and slaughtered all the men in the Shakya clan, wiped out the whole clan, and then they captured all the women and brought them back to Magadha. And it's quite a. I read this story years ago, but of course now maybe I'm just in the right time where it just where it hits deep. Because this we created this war. We created the evils that we see through our greed, anger, and ignorance. Um, and if it wasn't for the Buddha's immovable presence of not being swept away by his actually greed, anger, and ignorance, or maybe anger at the time. And I'm sure many other people, even I thought, like, why can't they just fight back? I'm sure other people at that time told the Buddha that's the wrong thing to do, and we must fight. But the coolness, you would say, close to home, is actually what we practice now, and this is thousands of years ago. So we are allowed to practice and sit here because of the Buddha not moving and not being dragged around by this hatred, or you'd say by the anger of the moment that he got caught up in, or that actually all of them got caught up in. So when we look at, you would say, the evil and conditions of the world, boy, it's a mess. It's a total mess. We are a total mess. And but when I went to UC Santa Cruz, and that was a long time ago. At that time, there was I think the Desert Storm or something, Desert Shield Storm, and whatever, the Gulf War. And of course, the Iraq, and it was all very complex. And again, people were killing each other, and it was just a total mess for peace. And I knew other people that they were for, the other side, and for war, or to fight back. And I was on the peace side, but then I decided I don't want to be even part of this. I am part of it, but I don't want to do anything. And I remember at a party, of course, everyone's talking and all fired up. Everyone's all fired up. And I said, I don't want to be part of your side. It's the peace side. I don't want to be part of peace. And then they got angry at me. So it creates then a fighting again. And you have this human condition in which we cannot stop unless we face actually the truth of life, or the truth of this self actually sitting here on the zafu, and to receive yourself in a very deep and a very true way. Um, yeah. So there's also the other side, that maybe there are many people like King Rory that will not accept our peace, um, and uh, we should accept it, or we should we should when we sit zazen, we're digesting and processing our own greed, anger, and ignorance, and actually the greed, anger, and ignorance of humanity. And it cannot help, but it takes hard work. It's just all your garbage, all the things that you think is right, wrong, good and bad, and you process it until your heart becomes pure. So it's not like you sit in this bliss and you become into nirvana and then everything's cool, but you actually sit with your greed, anger, and ignorance, all your fabrications, all the things that you think you want to be, all the things that you wish you would be, all the things that you are, your failures, your triumphs, everything. You sit with it and then digest it, and then you realize that this is our human condition that we live in. And And this cannot help, you cannot help then to go back into the world and then share this deep peace. And peace is not just taking sides or we should stop war, but this deep peace that comes up from your heart when you see someone fall down in Target or something like that. So it's not Zen. It's not doing something spiritual. We're not doing anything spiritual. We're really being true person. So that's what the practice of actually sitting down and doing nothing is. And I get fired up right now by talking about it because it's really important. It's the best thing that you could do is actually do nothing. And when you do nothing, then actually everything it does it that's the emptiness or the truth of a reality then appears, and your life then becomes buoyant, alive, and then truthful, and then that's how an enlightened society appears. And it can happen between two people, could happen between one person, happen 3 millions of people, but if we do this, then something will happen that is beyond our conditioned thinking. I have this is something from so of course you could apply this analogy for anything that you do. When one displays the Buddha mudra with one's whole body and mind sitting upright in this samadhi, even for a short time, everything in the entire Dharma world becomes Buddha mudra. And all space, a universe completely becomes enlightenment, or actually the enlightenment is actually goodness, not as opposed to evil, but it's a resetting. Although both body and mind and object appear and disappear within stillness, because this takes place in the realm of self-receiving and self-employing, without moving a speck of dust or destroying a single form, extensive Buddha work and profound, subtle Buddha influences are carried out. That means this evil or this goodness is actually wiped out. It's beyond actually good and evil. The grass, trees, and earth affected by this functioning radiate great brilliance together, endlessly expound the deep, wondrous Dharma. This piece lies in the rain on the roof, our sitting, the candles, this camera. Grasses and trees, fences and walls demonstrate and exalt it for the sake of living beings, both ordinary and sage, and in turn, living beings, both ordinary and sage, express and unfold it for the sake of grasses and trees, fences and walls. So all things then are realized in this way. The realm of self-awakening and awakening others is fundamentally endowed with a quality of enlightenment with nothing lacking, and allows the standard of enlightenment to be actualized ceaselessly. Even if only one person sits for a short time, because this zazen is one with all existence and completely permeates all time, it performs everlasting Buddha guidance within the inexhaustible Dharma world in the past, present, and future. Zazen and doing nothing is equally the same practice and same enlightenment for both the person sitting and for all dharmas, that means the entire world. The melodious sound continues to resonate as it echoes not only during sitting practice, but before and after striking emptiness, which continues endlessly before and after a hammer hits it. Not only that, but all things are endowed with original practice within the original face, which is impossible to measure. You should know that even if all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River, together engage the full power of their Buddha wisdom, they could never reach the limit or measure or comprehend the virtue of one person's zazen. Thank you.